Way more afraid of the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times, the man who practiced 10,000 different kicks one time. Like, it's like, coach, we're all doing 10,000 kicks.
It's another Alex Hermosi quote is that until you've done the boring stuff way beyond it got boring for a long period of time, you haven't built a business, because when you do the same thing over and over for a long time, you don't expect results. All of a sudden the results come.
To sink your teeth into and to grow through hard things. Like, are you facing the obstacles and challenges in your life the way that leads to your growth? Are you taking your growth seriously? I think that's the question.
Hey, it's Daniel, and you are about to watch a clip from our free podcast, The Coach's Journey, where we help you navigate the surprisingly difficult path of building a coaching business by people who are actually doing it. And we go live, raw and unedited every week in our free Facebook community.
All right. Well, hey, Coaches Nation. Welcome to another edition of the Coach's Journey podcast. I'm Daniel Fernandez. I'm here with Faisal Ansan. And today we're talking about lessons from a decade in coaching. Faisal and I have both been coaching for 10 years. And we have been thinking through some lessons that we've learned. And we're going to talk about those today. So buckle up and learn from us. Not that we don't have more to learn from each other, which hopefully today, I'll learn from you, Faisal, and maybe you'll learn from me. And if you are listening to this on one of our podcasts or our YouTube channel, then feel free to comment in our comments, especially if you're watching live. We're watching the comments, so feel free to comment live. I'll pull that up here, and we'll see the comments. We could even respond to you if you're live on the YouTube. So excited to get started with our lessons over the last 10 years. Faisal, let's start with you. Give us a lesson.
And that was so hard to pick between a bunch, but I would say for me, these are the top 3 lessons. I'll go one by one. We'll take it one at a time. I think some of our lessons are the same. The last one for me is probably the biggest change maker, so we'll share that at the end. But the first one, many coaches are aware of it, but it just they don't realize the effect of it, and because it's actually taught in a lot of certifications, and pretty much every certification I've gone to, they've said a version of this, and that statement is, I am client zero. Now, to me, over time, that has evolved quite a bit. In the beginning, I was like, well, I got to study personal development. That's what it meant like to me in the beginning.
That's how it starts out, right? That's what you think of it. Yeah.
I was like, okay, I need to be on a growing path. But it's become more and more evident how important it is. And I would say it's the number one lesson, and how it has evolved for me is that I don't look at it as reading books or going to courses or taking classes. That's a small part of it. But the way I look at it more and more now, and I have been for a number of years, is what is going on in my life and how am I handling the things that I'm handling. Not to be perfect, but to be tackling the challenges that I'm walking my clients through. And a lot of that happens because I started working with clients, and throughout the sessions, things come up, and you're kind of, I got to challenge this person, and in the back of your mind, you're thinking, like, I got to challenge myself in this area. Forget about the client.
I love the client zero point, because I think it's very true. I've seen the same thing in my life. And like, I think what you're getting at, which really resonated with me as I think a huge lesson, is the willingness to constantly engage in the challenges that are affecting me as a person, in the way that I am constantly challenging my own clients to do that, right? And it's like, to me, this is about role modeling. It's about becoming the kind of person that you would challenge yourself to be if you were a client, so that you're also role modeling. But it's not just personal growth, it's growth in general. It's like, how are you growing? Are you creating new aligned challenges for yourself to sink your teeth into and to grow through hard things? Like, are you facing the obstacles and challenges in your life the way that leads to your growth? Are you taking your growth seriously? I think, guess the question that comes to mind for me. And I think I feel like that's been a good theme for me too, across the years. I've always been pushed by to sink your teeth into and to grow through hard things. Like, are you facing the obstacles and challenges in your life the way that leads to your growth? Are you taking your growth seriously? I think, guess the question that comes to mind for me. And I think I feel like that's been a good theme for me too, across the years. I've always been pushed by, like, how can I grow? How can I challenge myself? And even when it gets really hard, like, am I still continuing to consistently pick back up and try to move through it anyway?
Yeah.
Is that what you're getting at a bit here, Faisal?
Yes, exactly. I want to make a distinction, though. It reminds me of this quote by an expert who said, in the similar field as us, that he said something to the effect of, if enlightenment was easy, everybody would be enlightened.
Mm.
And the reason, and then he followed up with, most people's idea of growing and enlightenment and all that stuff is that, oh, I'm excited, I'm growing. He's like, that's not how growth works. It's actually painful.
Yeah.
The reality of most growth, whether it's
Hard.
with your own thoughts and emotions and your beliefs as you're battling and tackling, and we from religious language, your own demons, to relationships, are not easy. Working within a family, a community, is not easy, and most people understand this. But here's unfortunately, here's what I've seen over and over: that most coaches run away from these challenges of life, and they go into their books. They'll have hundreds of books behind them, but they're all theory. They're somebody else's experience. And when I dig into their life, they're running away from a challenge in their life. That challenge could be a relationship. That challenge could be them being effective and productive in the thing that they are uncomfortable the most, aka building their business. Or they might be internally struggling with something and they haven't worked through that. They haven't invested in themselves. And that could be a thought process. For example, for me, trauma has been a big pattern, and I've tried to work through that a lot because it has affected everything from the way that I show up to how I deal with my kids to how I interact with others. And at some point, it became very obvious that there are parts of me that I haven't understood and I haven't worked through, and that was painful to go towards. In fact, the first few sessions that I went through therapy and coaching, was like, who the hell would want to sit through any of this shit? And I had to force myself to go back every time. And that actually gave me a lot of
Yeah.
empathy in coaching sessions as well. Because I used to think, well, it's fun to be in coaching sessions, until I started tackling the thing. Like, it is not fun for people to
If it's
talk.
really fun, you're probably not being challenged enough, right? Like it should be a certain level of fun, right? Like I you know, having gone through therapy and coaching myself, and many times in my in my past 10 years, and even before that, to be honest, it should be a little bit hard because like the reason you're getting help is because it's hard, right?
Yeah.
And it's too hard to do on your own, so you get help, and then you get help, and if it's really easy, you're not making progress because you're not really
Yeah.
facing the hard. So that's why when my first experience of therapy or coaching, I asked my therapist like it was the first session. I for some reason this came out of me. And I said, could you just like push me a little bit, like make sure like push me, like I want you to push me. He's like, okay. And
Yeah.
so like that defined the whole relationship because I asked him to do that. And then at some point, like months down the road, where we hit this really hard place, he's like, Daniel, at the beginning of this, you asked me to push you. This is why I'm telling you this. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And that's so hard, right? It's like that's when you feel that hard. That's like sign like that's what I want. Like I want like when I feel that nowadays. Like I had this year, I was facing a couple of really hard business challenges and relational challenges, and I noticed like how hard it was. I'm like, this is the hardest thing, and I was feeling my stomach, and I realized like I had these thoughts now that I didn't used to have, which is like this is good, this is making you stronger, this is actually forcing you to face things that are hard. You're gonna learn from this, and you're gonna be so good on the other side of this. This is what was going through my mind soon after I started feeling these things, and I realized like I've done some hard work to like want to face hard, right? And to like recognize like and I still have work to do here, to be truly honest. But like I
Yeah.
know that I want to do the work and I can see the evidence across my life that I'm doing that hard work. Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I like this quote that says we're all work in progress.
right.
And so a couple of areas to really, I want people, and if you're listening to this, ask yourself this question: is there any part of my life where I am not tackling? And I'm not saying you have to; it's completely your choice. But remember, and here's how it shows up. And I've listened to a lot of my own calls. I've observed a lot of other coaching sessions. I've listened to calls, and almost always it shows up in a version of this. I'll listen to a part where there's an opportunity for a coach to challenge somebody. One of two things happens: either the coach doesn't challenge that person, and I'm like watching it like watching a game with popcorn because I
You mean the client is not challenging something in their life? Is that what you mean?
so they're going through a coaching process, and usually somebody sends me these recordings because they're like, I don't know why this client doesn't want to work with me anymore, and the
Okay,
session
so
didn't
a
go
coach
well.
who's trying to work with a client and
Yeah, so
send
I'm
you
giving this
okay.
coach feedback. So I'm listening to the call, and I'm like, I have fun listening to these calls. It's odd, but I'm I'm sitting there enjoying it, and I'm like, and then I see an opportunity, and I'm like, holy shit, this is gonna be really cool. He's gonna challenge this client, and it goes, nothing happens, and then I write down that moment, and I will go back and ask like, so these three areas that really stood out for me. and I'll play that part sometimes if I'm online with them. I'll play. I'm like, here's what happened. What what do you notice? I don't even say anything. Like, what do you notice here? And they will actually notice it a lot of times. They'll be like, I think I should have pushed a little bit in this area. Like, and then I'll ask them, like, why do you think you didn't? And you'd be like, they either didn't feel confident because they're struggling in that area and they haven't tackled it. It's not even the struggle. They haven't actually gone towards it. I'm like, that's interesting that it didn't. Or it was a complete blind spot. They didn't even see the thing. They didn't even notice that this was an area for them to challenge in. And it was just, to me, like, first couple of times when I noticed that, and of course I've noticed the same things in my own sessions, where it either slipped completely or I went in a different direction. I didn't catch either a tonality change or simple, subtle body language change or something they said where I didn't ask, I didn't discover a little bit more. I'm like, why didn't I do that? And then it gets me to question, okay, what's going on with me in that area? Why didn't I notice that? Or why didn't I go towards it? Am I uncomfortable with this? Am I uncomfortable with the challenge? Or
It
didn't
could
I?
be a perception or a discomfort, right? Or
Yeah.
some sort of fear, or maybe even like you can identify what is going on. And then the next time you'll be way more likely to catch it because you've done that analysis and thought through it, right?
And almost always it leads to you doing something better in your life, or at least admitting that you're not willing to tackle that part. And here's a lot of times when I collaborate with coaches, it's been so interesting. The areas that they're not very good at, or the areas where I'm very good at, and sometimes they will even know it's like I'm not good at, for example, this emotional thing, and I know exactly why, because they're not tackling it very well. And it's fine. We work better. Like, they can go in a different direction. I can go in this direction more so. That doesn't mean they don't know how to deal with it, but they can't go deeper in that area because they just haven't gone deeper into that experience. So I'll usually collaborate with them. But generally speaking, if you are a coach in the mindset, performance, human behavior world of any kind, you will need to tackle human conditions like your own thoughts, emotions, beliefs, your relationships, your work, how much you've challenged yourself in your business, your ability to push yourself and challenge yourself, your consistency, habits, systems. Like, all those areas will come up in pretty much every session, and it'll affect the client. And you will usually either project that part of you onto the client, or you wouldn't even know what to do.
Yeah, this kind of links to what one of my lessons is, which is like that coaching is a business. And one of the ways that it links here, and it's a business and it must be. Like, I figured this out after years of not thinking about it that way. Just thinking about it, it's like it's a job, or it's a thing I'm doing, or I'm just having conversations with people. But the longer I did it, the more I realized like it was because I had to grow personally that I didn't realize that it had to be a business. It wasn't going to make sense. And like, if I was independently wealthy, I could maybe make it work, but it's still a business model. Like, you still have to, like, to get clients and things, you have to, or to create clientele for your business, you still have to go through the process. You still have to build a process, unless you just want to do it very sporadically, unevenly, and occasionally. That's fine too. But to become a consistent coach, you have to realize it is a business. It has to be a business. At least it
Yeah.
has to have a business model to it, which is a structure. And to get that structure to work, you have to actually face so many personal challenges. Like, you have to be your own, as you said, client zero. Like, you have to get better and better at facing the things that are hard for you. And business is hard by definition, especially for coaches, because we're so heart focused. Like, we don't want to think about business. We want to think about the people in front of us, which is actually a good formula for making your business work if you can have the structure behind it and the habits and consistency. So, like, building those habits and consistencies around having conversations and around discovery sessions and failing and getting no's and all this stuff. Like, you have to be able to get that to happen to you and still keep on going. It takes a lot to face that kind of rejection, and to face that, if you think it's rejection initially, and to face that kind of difficulty level. It's a whole other level of difficulty. So you have to be your own client in a way to face that. You have to get support and help and coaching and often therapy, to really be able to face those things at a deep level. And that's why that's one of the things I love about coaching, that it is a business that's forced me to think about this in this way, to learn about business. And it gave me new capabilities. And so, like, not only is it a business, it has to be a business. And if you don't think of it that way, it might not be sustainable for most
Yeah.
people. So
Yeah, and a business is very different from a job, and people don't, because usually when people say I'm a coach, they're kind of approaching it as like a part-time job, not even a part-time job because they partially do the thing, and you have to understand that for a part-time job to function for you, let's say if you worked somewhere part-time and you work maybe 10, 15 hours or whatever, they have to have a business that sustains that job. That means there's a whole system behind it that gets them to put you on the schedule for whatever capacity and you go there, show up. But coaches approach it, well, I'm a coach. I'm just going to coach people once in a while. It just that does, and from a skill set point of view, that doesn't work either because you're not getting enough repetition to improve either. So your coaching will always be mediocre. But I'll tell you, every coaching community that I've been a part of, one of the most common questions usually newer coaches ask, I've asked this question as well, is what do you guys think? Can you coach somebody more successful than you? And I know why they're asking it. I didn't know why in the beginning, because in their mind, they're feeling not confident to coach somebody. Successful usually is on the work side, financial side, or general life side, and they're not feeling confident that they can coach them, not because they don't have the same level of success as the other person, let's say from an asset point of view or business point of view. Most of my clients are more successful than me from a business point of view, to be honest. And many coaches, even my own mentors and coaches, they work with people who are more successful than them. So I wanted to understand, like, well, what gives them confidence to do that? And it goes back to that client zero point, is that they actually are the foundation is not that you need to solve at the level that they have solved it. The foundation of it is that you need to tackle the problem at least. And so if you're going to work with a business owner, you should be tackling that problem of business to some degree. You understand, at the least you should be understanding what they're going through as a business owner. Otherwise, you won't even know what their world involves. You're going to keep bringing something else into it, and it doesn't apply. Now, you might say, well, no, I'm a leadership coach. I'm going to approach it differently. Well, leadership in business is getting better in business. It's like the leadership in coaching is getting, so these are all offshoots of leadership. So if you have a part of your life that you need to improve in, at least you have to be tackling that. So as you go through your journey, and coming back to the second point, which is the same as my lesson, you can't operate a business by just being a coach. That means you'll have to actually, today we went through a session, our 90-day challenge session was around a couple of the clients. I was trying to get them to see their role not just as a coach, but a business owner. So I gave them a visual of, imagine you actually just have an agency, a store, a firm where people get to walk in physically. Now, a lot of coaches don't have that, so it's hard to visualize that. And like, imagine you had that and you had to get people to come into your firm. You had to pay expenses. You had overhead, and you don't have a lot of that in business. And
all the
coaching,
stuff you didn't know when you were signing up to be an entrepreneur that had to happen,
right?
right? Yeah.
And which means that then that business has certain foundations. It needs marketing. It needs sales. I don't care how much you have a problem with that emotionally. Those are foundations of a business. You can't operate a business without marketing and sales. You can't operate it without finance, accounting. You can't operate it without delivery, the quality of your service and product, which is your coaching. You can't operate it without systems in place, and eventually people. As you go now, in the beginning, it's all muddled into you. You have to show up in every role in there, but those foundations exist in every business. So if you're not looking at it as a business owner who's opened up a store and a coach that does the delivery, which is the product or service, you will not build the right thing, because your focus will be in a completely different place, because the thing that will sustain your coaching practice will be the business, not on your
Yeah.
own.
And this connects to another lesson that I thought of, which was the coaching, career path, which is a career like any other career in some ways, and in other ways totally unlike any other career, is a career. It's something you can do for many, many years. And ideally we find careers that are aligned to doing things that we love, doing things that we're good at, and things where we can continue growing and gaining skills. And the career path of being coach sometimes isn't thought of as a career path. It's thought of as a temporary or a part-time or something like that. But if you think of it as a business, and then being a business person, an entrepreneur, is a whole subset of careers, but coaching is one particular subset of business. of entrepreneurship, which is building a career in the coaching world. So, as Faisal likes to say, it's like, are you in this for 10 years? Are you in this for 5 to 10 years? Is this a career path for you? Or is it temporary, flash in the pan? That'll also determine how consistent and how much, how committed you are to this journey. And so it's like a career in that, like any other career, in that you still need to build connections, you still need to build colleagues, you still need to build an ecosystem around you. Like in most jobs, I used to work at General Motors, and I had an automatic ecosystem of people around me. I had professional development, I had like HR support, I had many other careers that I could learn from, and I had this network, this ecosystem that was amazing. We had training departments, and we had all kinds of benefits and stuff. There's a whole career around this, that like a whole set of I like to say ecosystem around this, that made it like easier to navigate in a way than a totally self-directed career. But even that career was really hard to navigate. I remember I didn't really have a vision for my career path. I learned that over time through coaching, that I was just kind of like going through a random career. And then as I got more intentional about it, I realized like, oh, I want to grow in this way and that way. And so I started directing my own career. But when you're a coach, like, you have to direct your own career. And what does that mean for you? And you have to decide, what does that mean for me? You have to be a lot more intentional, because you can't just hang on to your job without thinking for very long. Like, you need to be client zero, as we've talked about, to develop yourself as a human and as a coach. And this is what is very different from other careers, which is, it's a career in that it's not just about you, but it's also a lot about you. Like, it's about your choices about your career, and it's about your direction for your life, and how much you do or don't want to coach, and what ways you do or don't want to coach, what kind of like people you want to coach. Do you want to coach groups? Do you want to coach? You have all these choices to make about where your career is going to go. In a way, it's very different from a normal career, because you have to put yourself on the line and go do the stuff that sells the clients into your coaching. And that's really hard for most people, especially if you came from a career like I did, where it's like I was in operations, but I never really talked about sales, never talked about business. You have to face a lot more fears in many ways, because of the pieces of the business you need to build on your own. And you don't have to build it on your own. You can get a team. And I didn't even realize at the beginning you could have a team. It's just a really hard career to be alone in. And that's why CMC exists, because we realized after years of doing coaching, it's like, we cannot be alone in this. It's too hard. Let's work together, and let's build this community of coaches around ourselves that, at first we were just volunteers. And then eventually we realized, like, coaching has to be a business, and so does this support community. It'll be much more effective in helping others that way. And so, like, it's a very unique career, because it takes a lot of you. It's very personal. I guess is what I'm saying. It's a very personal career that
Yeah.
I think a
So
lot of coaches are drawn to it for that reason.
yeah, and a lot, and the reason I think a lot of coaches are drawn to it, because they've gone through some kind of struggle in their life, and that pretty much every coach I've met, they have a story of something they had to work through. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're passionate about this path long term. They might just be in it currently, and this is the part that most coaches also underestimate or overestimate when they watch other coaches that come into this world, and especially in the past few years with the help of AI and new technologies, online world blowing up. People are seeing more and more coaches coming into the picture. In fact, you're hearing it more and more, because it's they're seeing it as an opportunity, and they will usually connect it to their story. I've gone through the struggle. But just because you've gone through a struggle doesn't necessarily mean you will stick to this path long term. There has to be a much deeper reason than I've gone through something, and this needs to be part of your day to day. You need to have a deeper interest. For example, somebody who might be playing piano. For example, I have two daughters. One is much more interested. The other one is not as interested in the piano. And I know Daniel is an incredible piano player. He's played for us a lot. It's like, you have an intrinsic thing to constantly be on it. I have an intrinsic desire to understand certain things about human beings and the world, and I've always been interested in it, and coaching just fit well in that picture for me. So it wasn't just the story I went through. I just have a consistent interest in it. And when you say career, what I hear is actually mastery.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. That's a perfect word for it. It's like a career that can lead you like forward in your desire and your pursuit of mastery,
Yeah,
right?
so that's very different than because when I hear career, I don't like careers, to be honest. Like,
Well, it's
people are
both.
all
It's structurally a career. It's a career path.
it
Like, there's
is.
the development path for you, and a skill building and a network and an environment and all that. But it's also just like any other career could be, was a mastery, like an opportunity to pursue mastery. If that
So
lights you
so
up,
and the distinction is that you can't be a mediocre coach. And that's and the reason why you can't be a mediocre coach, because there are lots of mediocre therapists, by the way. Like if you go around, look around, there are lots of mediocre therapists, and they're functioning just fine. They have a career path as therapists because it's a normal industry career. And here's why they can function: because somebody has a business that hires them, and they just need to be good enough to support people. And because there's a shortage of a lot of therapists, they will keep hiring more and more and more. And as long as they have finished university and they have some practice, they will hire them and they'll move forward. That does not mean that they're really good or even partially good. They just got into it because
but
they
in
thought it
that
was a good
sense, you could
opportunity.
be a mediocre coach if you worked for somebody else and there was a shortage of coaching need. But at the same time, like somebody else is running that business, right?
But that's not the reality of the business, the
No.
coaching business world. There's no virtually, like, you can't even compare the therapy world because the therapy world is funded by the insurance companies. They blew up a lot of it because if they had to run their own business and do their own marketing and that was not recognized, it's subsidized by insurance companies and healthcare and all that stuff. Coaching is not yet, it's not recognized. So even this is why even therapists who have shifted from their business towards coaching, they've struggled a lot because they don't know how to build a business. The only reason their business is intact because they're just taking insurance money for the most part. So this
Yeah.
addresses the fact that simply don't have the infrastructure of coaching being a normal thing where somebody's going to hire you just because you're a mediocre coach. And so you don't actually have a choice of being mediocre, because you being mediocre, which means this is what happens in business. If you're mediocre, you just will not get people to sign up in your offers, or you'll get it at a very low rate, might not even be worth it for you, and you will not get referrals. And those are the foundations of a business.
Yeah, you can be a low paid mediocre coach working for somebody else, but you probably won't have that job for very long,
Yeah.
right?
So this is why I said mastery is the only path in this business. So if you're not
Which is
interested enough,
awesome. I find this
which is awesome,
awesome.
right? But
It
it's
forces
awesome
me to be
for those who
better.
think mastery is awesome. But I've met lots of coaches who I just want to make some money, or I just, and even if they don't say that because it's hard, they will not feel good saying that. They will say that, well, I just want to this so it can help me build my lifestyle. Like that's where it's gonna be
I mean,
very, very
I don't get me
hard.
wrong. I like making money. I like,
Yeah.
making money. But honestly, I could coach a lot for free if I
But
was in.
my
I
bet
would
would be
love.
is you would have coached for free, and I know you have for a long time before you gave up. Not because of course it's smart to
That's
connect the
actually
thing that
what
you
got
love.
me to sustain long enough to actually make money because I
Same
loved it
reason.
so
Like
much.
for first year, I never charged anybody, and I just did it for free, and I was enjoying the process. And this is the
Yeah.
same thing. For example, Gary Vee talked about this with podcasts. It's like if you take two people, one person enjoys doing the podcasting, the other one's doing it to run their business or support their business. Within a year, I can almost guarantee the person who's running it for their business will not be doing it. It's like they can't,
'Cause
and statistics prove that
there's
because
no
most people can't.
reward that's right there. The
The
intrinsic
reward is
reward is
long
actually very
term.
powerful.
Yeah, it's a medium to long term strategy to do a podcast, and the only people who can sustain it is if they have an intrinsic reward system internally. And most coaches are not like that.
It's funny, and I'm thinking about it right now. It's funny you say this because like I was very intrinsically motivated. I loved the coaching. The thing that kept on tripping me up, it's a miracle that I didn't stop because I did love the coaching, but I wasn't making money at the beginning. Like that whole first, second
Yeah,
year, it was very, very not lucrative. And
yeah,
like it was a disaster. And I kept on being like, maybe this is wrong for me.
yeah.
But I knew something inside me was driving me to like want to do it and want to keep on doing it and to get better in it and to like improve and to like the path of mastery was very, very high drive for me in that. And definitely money
Yeah.
wasn't because I wasn't making any
Yeah.
money.
And
Um,
money becomes important as you go through it,
it
because
does become
and
important.
I look at it as a smart decision to combine the thing you're interested in to make money in a capitalistic system. If you're not doing that, then that's just that really, like, why would you do that as a side thing and do something else you're not interested in?
Yeah. Why
So
pick up a side job that that will have resistance all the way down, all right?
yeah,
Unless you really need money. So there's the difference. Like if you really, really have to have money and you can't make it in coaching right away, then get a job doing something that isn't
get a
awesome.
job.
That's fine. Or maybe something that you do like, whatever, and then keep on building up so that you can actually more reliably make money coaching, right?
Yeah, and that was answered by I love this quote from Alex Hermosi, who says that in every business you're gonna go through the beginning of every business is the learning journey, and then the second part of it is the earning. The
Learning
learning
and
is
earning.
usually the first couple of years. Most businesses are not in
No,
profit in the
we've
first
got the
couple of years.
first stage, which is the yearning.
Yearning,
No.
which
First,
happens.
there's the yearning, then there's the burning, then there's the learning, then there's the yearning.
There are lots
No,
of stages.
the learning kind of is the burning because you're burning cash, but you're not earning anything.
And
We
so
can go.
there's another quote that I love is like there are two, I think it was, I forget the guy's name. There are two big two major addictions in the world. One is heroin, the other one is a monthly paycheck. So this
It's
is
so
why it's
addictive.
hard for coaches to do this, because we've been trained to get a paycheck after
I
2 weeks or a
remember we
month.
used to call it the golden handcuffs when I was back at General Motors. Like I loved my
Yeah.
job actually, so it wasn't as bad. Like I was able to convert my job from a job that I didn't want to a job that I loved, and over that time grew in business and leadership and all the stuff. But I couldn't leave because like those golden handcuffs. It was like it's so lucrative. Had a company
Because it's
car and
consistency, right? And no
yeah,
business in the beginning will have that. It just wouldn't until they build their systems and until it's set up to a point where you can predictably say that I can create that. Then, so those first few years you're doing it, it's up and down the roller coaster. You do not have the emotional resilience. I don't care what you've gone through in your life, in business and work related to money, you don't have it because you've been trained to just accept the money, whether you do the job well, good,
if
not
you're
good.
moving from job to entrepreneur, yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Big difference. And then this is what throws off a lot of people who come from jobs, because they don't know how to adjust to the entrepreneurial world in the beginning. And last one, this kind of moves into that, is systems. Without systems in life, business and habits, which connects to consistency, nothing works. And because most things in business have a medium to long term outcome, which means that you might do content for a whole year and maybe you will get a client. You might do a podcast for 2, 3, 4 years and maybe it'll blow up at some point. And it's like there was this one influencer
The
that I
CNC
follow.
podcast has been going for like 3 or 4 years now, right?
It's almost so. I was watching, actually. He posted the statistical graph for his podcast, and he's blown up right now. Something burn. It's the Diary of a CEO. So I watched his post. It shows the graph shows like this for the first 4 or 5 years. It's like at the
Nothing.
bottom, and all of a sudden, it shoots up. By the way, that's the same curve for business too. Business
Yeah,
exponentially grows. In the beginning, it's very low the first 2 to 3 years. And so that requires a lot of consistency, a lot of intrinsic reward, a lot of systems over and over without you actually
without
seeing results,
reinforcement externally, we don't get
without
that
any kind
reinforcement.
of feedback process from it. You'll have to artificially create that with celebrations, with community, with coaches, mentors, peers, and lots. But it will not be from money. It will not be from
Yeah.
your from the business itself.
Yeah, you just made me think like business is a filter for the intrinsically motivated.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
And, and this
if
is why they
you
say most entrepreneurs are not in business for money. They're actually intrinsically driven to solve problems. They
which
have
is
a
ironic
mind.
given what business
Which
is.
is, and they do make a lot of money, but a lot of them, when they get to a point, they actually, it doesn't mean anything. It was funny. I was listening to one of Alex Hermozi's podcasts. It was, I think, a couple of years ago. He's like, the only time I've loved money is, he's like, I was stuck on an island. I think it was the Caribbean. There was a storm about to come and I found a charter plane. It's like I had to pay. That's the only time money really helped me out a lot. When I've gone past the survival. After that, millions that I've made has not really helped improve the quality or progress of my life in any way.
There
It's
were there was
just been my own
some
growth.
really strong study about this where they said like they did a study of like the poverty level and the income level, and as you got higher and higher, money did make a difference until you got to a certain point. I think it was
Until
like
you get
around
past survival.
100K, 80K, 100K. This was a while back, and then like it made a marginal difference. Sometimes it's like it really leveled off. Like you
Yeah.
don't for going from like 150K to 250K. There wasn't that big a difference in happiness.
It doesn't, and then I've gone through that journey
So
myself. In the beginning, once I got past survival, and that was around about 80 to 100K. And survival in the sense that our bills were paid. I didn't have to think about any kind of bills. When I went from that to 200K to 300K, it didn't really like, okay, great. I mean, I liked it because like it gave me
gives
a
you
lot of it
options.
went towards investment. It wasn't like tangible. Like with, let's say if I went from 60K to 80K, I could go to better restaurants. I could go on a vacation, but I can't do really anything, and nothing that I want to do. I mean, some people might be more like, oh, they want lavish lifestyles and other things. That's a whole other thing that I won't even go into. I think it's connected to something else. But when you've met your needs, after a while it stops being the thing that will drive you. And this is why most entrepreneurs are intrinsically driven, usually intrinsically driven to solve a set of problems. This is why they can come up with so many amazing solutions for it, whether that's a coach, that's somebody who's building tech, or something else.
Yeah.
And so I want to hammer on the hit home the consistency part. When I first couple of years when I started my business, this is what it looked like. I would always go back to, well, you know what? I'm going to do other things. And then on the weekend, I'll take out time and actually spend on this thing, and I'll spend a lot of time. Or I will block out like a whole week. I'll just do that. I'll work hard, hard, hard. And then that week I'm going to do. And I would get to that point that week or those 2 days, 3 days, I would barely get anything done or anything
You chicken out
meaningful
in one
done.
way or another, right?
Yeah, there would be always something that would come up that wouldn't work. And almost always I would go to the certifications. We would go in person or I would join a
Can you give a
program.
little more detail on the kinds of activities that you were not doing when the time came?
Nothing related to sales was being
Yeah,
done.
okay.
Marketing was
I just
kind of
wanted to
passive
share because I
marketing.
know the answer to that, but I want
Marketing and sales, I was not going into. What I was going into, the thing what I was comfortable with, reading books, going into courses,
studying.
building posts. Even that was okay. I had gotten over the fact that, okay, I need to put myself out there no matter how uncomfortable. So I was doing more of that stuff and getting into different certifications, courses, those kind of things. But I wasn't doing the real work. The real work was actually finding people to support. And every time I would go to these certifications or business training, whatever, I would go there and then I would like, my mind will do this calculation. Every time I'd be like, I've only spent like 2 weeks out of the year doing that work. 2 weeks out of the year. And then until I built a system, partially was my own habits, partially was the system, which was usually some kind of marketing system, which means I was constantly working on visibility, and then sales system, which was very dominant, like 80% of my work, and 89% is sales, which means that I was blocking out time to reach out to people, connect with people, to network, to be in
Yeah, when you
places
say
where I was
sales, you're not
exposed.
just talking about the selling that like when you make the offer. You're talking about the whole process from when you meet somebody to when they buy. That's a sales
I
process.
had to expose myself to more people. I had to put myself in uncomfortable situations. I had to go to places. It came to a point where I was going to my community areas like city hall and those places. They had like these programs, and I would go talk to them. It's like, can I do a session for somebody? Like I was getting open to the discomfort of being in front of people. I didn't have a lot of contacts when I started out because I was never in a career. Daniel, you had a career for a while. I only was in the career for a couple of years and then I moved. So I didn't really have colleagues. I literally went from college to 2 years of career to coaching. It's like it wasn't that much. So I had to really build a network around me, and that was the hardest thing for me. But it
Yeah,
pushed
it's
me
hard.
to build some consistency. I had to get out of I had to get out of behind my computer, whether that was in virtual things or in-person things, and I had to start meeting people and connecting with people, supporting people, learning from people. That part I was not really doing. And so I built a consistent system that, you know what? Yeah, just two decisions helped my business more than anything else. One was I need to be coaching people, at least one person every day. So 5 days a week that I was working, I would coach at least one person, whether paid or free. That was the best decision I made as a coach. And to this day, it's continued in one way or another after years. The second decision was I need to, I don't know what the number was, but I needed to reach out to a certain amount of people. And then later on, I understood follow up because I never followed up with them. So then I added the follow up
You
process.
start somewhere, right?
I started somewhere, but there was consistency. I did it over and over and over, week after week, day after day, day after day. And it's another Alex Hormozi quote is that until you've done the boring stuff way beyond it got boring for a long period of time, uh, you haven't built a business, because when you do the same thing over and over for a long time, you don't expect results. All of a sudden, the
Yeah.
results come.
That reminds me of a Bruce Lee quote. You know, if you practice, I'm way more afraid of the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times, the man who practiced 10,000 different kicks one time. Like, it's like, coach, we're all doing 10,000 kicks. But actually, there's the one kick that you need to do over and over and over again, and then which is the reaching out to people, and then the conversation kick, right? And there's like just a few small kicks that you can do a billion times, and like maybe just not a billion, but like even 100. Honestly, 100 would make a huge
Yeah.
difference to most coaches.
Yeah, and I can actually share, like, if you look at the numbers, like, and usually people say, well, 10,000 hours of doing something. I don't think it's the hours, it's the iteration. It's like how much practice you have. Like, if I were to go back to it, I have at this point thousands of hours of calls, sales calls, and coaching calls that I've done. So what built my business was not because I was thinking about coaching or I was putting myself on social media. It was actually the work that I had to do with people over and
Yeah.
over thousands of hours of it, and learning from that process. That helped me more than anything else.
I think the 10,000 hours actually makes sense because it means you've iterated that many times. If you just do 10,000 hours without any iteration, it's not valuable. If you do
Yeah.
the same thing without learning anything, like that's not nearly as valuable. Like,
Because you
yes, you
can
get some
spend
experience.
10,000 hours learning about coaching theoretically. Like
No,
it's like
that's
you
not the
read
10,000 hours I'm
10,000 hours
talking
of reading about riding a bicycle versus
about.
10,000, like who's going to
Yeah.
learn the
Yeah.
bicycle?
Yeah. You spend 10,000 hours reading about riding a bicycle, you're still going to fall the first time, right? It's just
Yeah.
how it works, right? But you want 10,000 hours actually riding the bicycle, you're just definitely going to get better every single time, right? It's like impossible. It's like if you're even 1% intentional, you're gonna improve every time. So if you get iterations as part of your 10,000 hours, if you factor that in, then like it might even not even take 10,000 hours to get somewhere that you want to get, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and the results show up within a few hundred hours of you doing something, and then you at that point, then now you're getting external feedback. Now you can build on that. It's not just internal feedback and intrinsic rewards that you're going on. But most people can't even get past a few dozen of them. I say that from experience as well, because the first year I did not coach that many people. I like all I did was all kinds of other stuff that didn't relate. When I asked, and that's one of the first questions I ask, how many people you've coached when I meet a coach over the past 3 months, over the past 6 months, over the year. And usually it's handful. Like I can count it on one hand. Sometimes it's with two hands.
this reminds me of the last lesson I want to bring up right before we wrap up here, which is the value of thinking of yourself as the super connector in your network. Like being a super connector is valuable to you as a person, just having more connections in your
Can you
life.
define super connector? What do you mean?
Somebody who, yeah, great question. Like I think there's many different definitions of it, but the way I think about it is super connector is someone who's always connecting to people around them, who the network knows is a source of support, who connects people to each other, who refers and gets referred, who introduces, who creates opportunities within the network. Somebody who's like seen by their network as the connected person that everybody would love to, help or be helped by. So like this act of building up a coaching business is really, and I only learned this in the last like year or so, as an actual thing. Thinking of myself as a super connector, it's actually really beneficial for me, but it's also beneficial for everybody around me. And like I started to think about like as I do my outreach and my follow ups and I track these things, which I'm honestly still improving at. Thinking of myself as a super connector can be a really valuable frame because not only is it my job and my responsibility to be that source of connection in my network, but I have to make it a system to become I want to create a system to become a super connector. And if you become that super connector, coaching becomes a lot easier because you're constantly connecting with people, right? Whether it's like, and coaching is not my only business, but like whether I'm doing coaching or not, it's so valuable to meet people and to connect with people and to offer support and to find out what's going on with them and to be that source of support for people. And if you do that enough, people will want your support, right? If you
Yeah.
connect with enough people, and whatever level of coaching you're at, there's always going to be people that will need your support, and always going to be people that won't need your support. And that's part of
Yeah.
being that super connector. You just get humanly connected to people, and it's a really like it's a really positive thing for everybody. It lifts all boats. You know what I mean? So this is one of my lessons in the last year or so. It's like just think of yourself as a super connector. It's good for everyone.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll look at that as like an advanced understanding, like how business works. So advanced fourth bonus point. And I actually learned this from people who are naturally very good at this. And like they just love, like in their life, they loved connecting with people, connecting people. And I saw them like being really good in business without even being good in business. And like they just had a really good network. So whenever they put something out, an offer or an opportunity, lots of people would connect them with people. And then I watched them like, huh, that's interesting. But for a while, I knew lots of people.
Correlated.
I just wasn't intentional around it. So I love what you said, that when you're looking at your CRM, you're connecting with all these people. Who have you connected them with, or who have you connected other people with them that could support them, like with support each other? So that I actually use that as a tactic for cold outreach for myself. So when there are lots of people I connect with on social media, one of the first things I'm looking for, who do they need help from? And I'm not even thinking of myself. I'm like, who in my network can support them, whether it's an investment they're looking for. And usually I'm meeting like investors, multifamily, and I've met like hundreds of them over the years. And so I know them, and some are on my mind, some are on my CRM. So if I hear that they're struggling with a loan, or they're looking for a specific asset, or they're looking for a partner, I'll go and connect them very quickly. And they see that as such a high value, and it is.
This exact thing happened to me the other day. I met somebody at an event. We booked a connection call with them. It was just a 30-minute call, 20-minute call. We got on the call. It was like 3 weeks later, actually, because one of us had to, I think it was me, who had to reschedule. We got on the call. It was awesome. He was this guy who is a podcast strategist. I'm like, cool. And I wasn't thinking like you had to become a coaching client. I was thinking like, let's meet this cool, interesting person that we had a connection on. We have some things in common. Okay, let's just have a chat. And the first thing that happened on the call was actually we talked a little bit about what we both did, and he's like, "Oh, I know somebody that you should meet." And he connected me up with a guy who we had a call like 4 days later. I was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much for connecting me with somebody who is relevant." And that person actually was somebody who was like maybe had a need for an executive coach. I was like, "Wow, that was really cool of that first person." Like, and like I know this guy's like a master networker because like he is always thinking about who can I connect this guy with, and like this guy is a good person to stay in touch with. And I really respected him for it and appreciated it. And like that's kind of what I'm aspiring to be more of this year, is to be that person who's just offering value to my network, right? Whether he becomes a client or I become his client, either one's possible. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It's
and
not
then
really about
there's
that. It's about
the
making us
value
feel
of
connected.
that is in gold, because let's say he connected you with somebody, and that somebody connected you with somebody, and that leads to like a big offer. You would have probably never had access to that person on your own. That it came
Right.
directly from, and then I've worked with coaches who have connected me to a whole community of people, and I've given them huge amount of like percentage, and a lot of times they're like, I'm like, I would have never had access to this person had I not met you.
Yeah.
And they get surprised why I'm giving them 30-40% sometimes of my profit. I'm like, no, you deserve it. The first, like you, and they weren't even expecting it, because now it's not just on that sale. Now I got connected to a whole network that I can explore. And that's,
That's a whole other level, like rewarding the people who introduce you
yeah.
and refer you for a business that has acquired. That can be really valuable. And what that 30% is a huge chunk of money. They would never expect it. And then what? Well, like, why am I wasting money on that when I could be investing in my business? You are investing in your business. That is actually the relationship that's more likely to produce more leads for you. So
And
actually,
I
that's your
usually get
business
more leads from
investment.
that.
That's right. So
So one of the other practice I have that I started doing, that whenever I go to events that I attend or I'm speaking at, I always like 99% of the time I'll hold a dinner. You were at one of the events, and sometimes I end up paying. Like the last time I did, not the last time, one of the times actually you were there when I held that dinner, and I pay for it every time.
okay, which dinner? What are you talking about?
This was a Michael Boggs event. So remember, I invited a bunch of people to the dinner. You were there.
Oh yeah,
Our
yeah.
team was there too. So and it's usually like 10, 12 people, and I look at it as a investment in my network. So I bring a bunch of people together that are cool. They connect with each other and they build connections. Almost always at the end of that, I'll get one, two, three, four clients over the next few months. It's like it's almost given. Like the value of that was, but this one I remember. So it was supposed to be 10, 12 people. It ended up being like 20 people.
Yeah, totally.
20
Wait,
people in there. I'm like,
we're running out of time. I just realized we got to go.
okay.
But like, awesome podcast today, Faisal. I just really enjoyed like chatting about these things. This is a really fun one. And if you're listening to this and you're like, "Wow, I really liked what I'm hearing," or "I really do need more support from people who are on the journey, need a community," all coaches need a community. Then please go to cmc.coach and join our free Facebook group. Reach out to us. We're on that Facebook group. We'll respond to you.